Today, we're going to peel back the layers of history to uncover a world that was literally lost to time. We're talking about a civilization that thrived on the roof of the world, long before the famous monasteries we all associate with Tibet even existed.
You know, when you picture ancient Tibet, your mind probably goes straight to chanting monks in these amazing Buddhist temples, right? But just look at this. These silent, weathered stones, they tell a much, much older story. They're like ghosts of a forgotten kingdom, a pre-Buddhist world we're only just now starting to understand.
So, let's journey back in time, way beyond the familiar story, to explore Tibet's forgotten past. We're about to piece together the story of a civilization that didn't leave behind any written history, just these mysterious clues carved right into the landscape itself.
For a really long time, the history of Tibet has been completely tied up with the arrival of Buddhism in the 7th century. I mean, it shaped everything: the culture, the art, the politics. But the question that really drove a huge, decade-long search was, what and who was there before? What if a massive chapter of this region's history was just missing?
So the era we're diving into is called the pre-Buddhist period. And don't let the name fool you. This wasn't some primitive, undocumented time. We're talking about sophisticated civilizations stretching through the Middle Age, including the almost legendary Zhang Kingdom, which ruled this enormous plateau for centuries.
Now, uncovering this lost world was not easy. It took an absolutely extraordinary effort, a true archaeological quest, by researchers who were just determined to find what had been forgotten.
And this wasn't just a summer project. We're talking about a full decade. From 1992 to 2002, the researchers spent on this grueling quest in one of the most extreme environments on Earth.
And the scale of this thing, it was just immense. They traveled over 5,000 kilometers across the high-altitude plains of Upper Tibet, systematically hunting for any trace of this lost world.
And what they found? Well, the result of all that dedication was staggering. More than 400 sites that were either completely unknown or undocumented were discovered. They basically put an entire lost civilization on the map that had been hiding in plain sight.
Okay, so what did they find out there? With no books or texts to guide them, these archaeologists had to become detectives. They had to learn to read the clues left behind in stone, to figure out how these people lived, how they worshipped, and how they died.
All right, so the evidence they gathered falls into 4 main buckets. Each one gives us a different piece of the puzzle: their homes, their sacred places, their graves, and their art. Let's break them down one by one.
First up, their homes. And these weren't simple huts, not at all. Archaeologists found the ruins of castles and fortified villages built way up on these high, defensible ridges. Now, the really interesting thing is where they built. Putting your home way up here tells you they were a strategic people, probably organized into clans or chiefdoms that might have been fighting over resources. Then you have these incredible ceremonial sites. I mean, look at these. Long rows of standing stones all lined up with incredible precision. What were they for? That's still a bit of a mystery, but the sheer scale of them suggests a powerful, shared belief system, one that was deeply connected to the sky, the mountains, and maybe even the stars.
You can learn so much about a culture from how it treats its dead. And what the archaeologists found was everything from simple burial mounds to these massive, squared-off masonry tombs. The key insight here is the variety. It strongly suggests a complex society with a real social hierarchy. Clearly, some people got a much grander send-off than others.
And finally, the art. This is where we get the most direct look into their world. Carved right into the cliffs are scenes from their lives and their myths. You've got hunting parties chasing yaks, warriors on horseback, and these strange, powerful figures with animal heads. This isn't just decoration. This is their story, their beliefs, carved into the world for us to find thousands of years later.
So, when you start to put all of these clues together, the castles, the stone pillars, the elaborate tombs, the art, a picture begins to emerge. It's a picture of a complex, organized, and really widespread civilization that once dominated the entire Tibetan plateau.
It's like the lead researcher on the survey said, these discoveries just completely change our understanding of Tibetan history. This wasn't some minor culture that came before the Buddhist era. This was a major civilization in its own right, way bigger and way older than anyone had ever realized.
Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. If this civilization was so big and so established, where did they go? Why were all these hundreds of settlements just abandoned?
Well, the most compelling evidence points to a force that we are all too familiar with today: climate change. Scientific data from the area suggests that about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, the climate on the plateau got a lot colder and drier. Lakes started shrinking, grasslands withered away, and life at that altitude just became impossible, forcing a massive migration.
But the story isn't over. The discovery of this lost world has kicked off a brand new, urgent mission. It's now a race against time to save these sites before they disappear again. And this time, it would be forever.
This is the really shocking part. Of the more than 400 sites that were cataloged, it's estimated that nearly half of them have already been damaged or are under immediate threat of being completely lost.
So the threats are really coming from two directions. On one hand, you have the relentless forces of nature, the incredibly harsh weather and erosion up on the high plateau. But on the other hand, you have us, human activity. We're talking about stones being looted for new buildings, sites being destroyed by modern development, and just a general lack of awareness of how important they are.
And here's the thing. Unlike a book that you can copy, once one of these stone monuments is gone, it is gone for good. The unique chapter of our human story that it holds is just erased forever.
The story of pre-Buddhist Tibet is this powerful reminder that our shared history is incredibly fragile. As we watch these ancient stone sentinels slowly fade away, it really forces us to ask ourselves, what other chapters of the human story are we at risk of losing right now, without even knowing it?